Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world, and I have a funky fold for you today, only it's so funky that it's actually not a fold, but it's called a fan fold card, and it's basically a faux fold. And this is the card I'm going to share with you today. Now this is 5 by 7, but I'm going to show you a like 4 4¼ by 5½ version, and so you can use my instructions for both sizes. So I'm going to be using some different color card, but what we need is basically 6 pieces. So here they are, and you can see that, you know, there's 2 in what I'm going to call the base color, 2 in what I'm calling the card layer, and then 2 in what I'm calling the decorative paper layer. So I hope that makes sense. Now, if you look below this video, you'll see a link to my blog, and in the blog post, you'll find the recipe. So this is what you'll find. So here's the one for the 5½ by 4¼ and there's also going to be one for the 7 by 5, and you can see that I've got the card base, a card layer and decorative. So card base, card layer and decorative, and then on step 4 I've got the base color layer, the card layer, and then the decorative paper. So hopefully that kind of makes some sense. Now also on the instructions you'll see that there's a score line, and then the red are cut lines, and so I'm going to be working through those with you on this particular video. So we're going to start with the 3 pieces that's making up the actual front of the card. So disregard this bit, so we're just working on the front of the card here. Now to make things quicker, I have put some pencil marks in so that I'm not kind of measuring up and working through sort of that with you, because it's all going to be on the instructions. So you'll see that here we're going to measure 2 inches from that corner and then slice, 2 inches from that and slice, and 2 inches from that and slice. So let me show you how we're going to do that. So you can see I've already got my pencil marks just to make things quicker. And to be honest with you, you could do the same. You could put those pencil marks in, because what is it they say? Measure twice, cut once. So with this one, I'm going to be lining up my cutting groove in my cutting board with the pencil line, and then get that corner hovering. Hopefully I got that in shot. I think so. And with this, you want to start from, if you like, where the flat piece of the card is. If you try and start on that corner, you'll kind of get a bit of a scooshing up, and it'll damage your card. So we're just going to put a nice clean line, and we got to keep this piece. That's an important piece. So we've now got that, and I'll use an eraser to get my pencil mark off. The next piece is we're going to take what I am calling the card layer, and again I've measured 2 inches, and I'm gonna line up my pieces over the cutting, start from the flat side and bring it down. Okay, so that's the piece we've got to keep. That's a piece we're gonna layer on to there. And then our final piece is our decorative paper. So again, I've measured 2 inches. I'm hovering my lines over the cutting. Start from what is the flat edge, not going to be the pointy edge. And then we've got our 3 pieces that will go nicely, all beautifully layered. And we'll get an eraser to those in a minute. Get those, there's a little bit of line. Now we've got these 3 pieces, and as you can see, they're all basically they're all the same size, roughly. So in order to get the layers, we're going to be trimming off a piece of this, and on my notes it's going to be about a quarter, but again, you want the tendency is to cut that piece off before you do that slice. But if you do that, then this is all going to be out of kilter. So we cut the slice and then trim the piece off. So I have just put a line there, just so I got it all done. Right, so again, I'm going to start my cut from the flat edge. Let's bring it down a tiny bit from the flat edge. I'm going to put a little bit of something to hold that in place because I think my finger is in the way. Got to put my glasses on, and I'm going to have to pull it forward so I can see. And hopefully my head isn't in shot. There we go. I think that's a little bit safer. So draw that down, and if the measurements work out, ha ha ha, she says optimistically, look at that, we've got a nice layer there. And then we're going to do the same with the piece of decorative paper, and if my measurements work out, we should have a nice layer. So this piece is a scrap, we can get rid of that, and we're going to do the same with this. I'm going to move it so I can see it. Forgive me a minute, and then I'll bring it back into focus. There we go. So the flat edge at the top, my cutting line is marked, and that is a scrap piece. We're good with that, we can throw that away. And as I say, if everything has gone to plan, that should all give me some lovely layers. Look at that. So I'm happy with that. Right, so if we've used a pencil line, we're just going to need to do, you get an eraser there just to get rid of them. There we go. And then this piece. So you can choose your colors. As always, when I'm making something, I tend to choose my decorative paper first, and then I look at that and find my colors that will go with it. So this pretty paper, I'm just trying to remember, oops, you darn, scrunch that up. I'm just trying to remember, let's get rid of the little shavings, there we go. I'm trying to remember what the pack was, but it was one that I picked up somewhere. Those of you who follow me know that I recently returned to the UK after living for 23 years in the States. We are now in our new home, but most of my supplies are still packed. I think my husband kind of felt that household things needed to be sorted before Cindy's craft corner. So I'm still sort of limping along on limited supplies. See, I didn't get that one. Why didn't I get that one? Yeah, so I'm still limping along on limited supplies. But you know, sometimes it just makes you think, okay, so I don't have an ink that will go with that to hand, so what will I use? And to be honest, if you've been watching my most recent videos, you'll see that I've actually been using a dark brown. It's a Stampin' Up colour called Early Espresso, and it's, for some reason, it kind of floated to the top on something in a box, and I grabbed it quick, and and I've been using it ever since. Right, now I need to put my pin back in because this adhesive will dry in that tube in a heartbeat. Right, so there's my front of my card. Now I'm going to stick these pieces together as well, because I don't want to lose sight of them, because when you've got lots of bits of floating around, let's put that there, card floating around, there is a goodly chance that I will lose one. So when I've got lots of bits like this, I do like to start getting them stuck down out harm's way. So this is our piece here, right, and then we're just going to stick that on here. And one of my tips that I used to teach my ladies who came to my classes, who I miss dreadfully, is you always put the glue on the smallest piece of paper that you're sticking, and that way you won't get adhesive sort of, if you put it on this larger piece and you happen to get some adhesive on your border, it can make a bit of a gucky mess. So that piece we're going to set to one side for a few moments. We'll need it shortly. All right, so the next piece that we're going to work on is this big fan piece. So this piece is the small fan, and we're going to work on this piece. So again, when you check back on the recipe, you're going to be using pieces 4, 5 and 6. And so here's my number 4. So that's my color, base card color. There's my card layer, and there's my decorative paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut them literally on the diagonal. I don't need to mark them up, but what we do need to be careful of is that we cut them in the right direction. Not so much on these two pieces, but on this one, because if we cut them in the wrong direction, I'll have the stripy bit. Not that I have a problem with the stripy bit. In fact, thinking about it, the stripy bit might be quite nice as an alternative. Let's have a look again. Let's see, do we like the stripy bit or do we go with the floral? Actually, I quite like the stripy bit. Oh dear, I wish I hadn't turned it over now, because I got to decide something now. Darn. Okay, right, so I've got my pieces, and so we're just going to cut corner to corner. So what I have a tendency to do is to flip this to the right. Okay, and if I do that consistently, I'll have the right there we go. So there's that. Now, this time I've got to point both ends. I haven't got a flat end to pick up on. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start my cut in the middle of the card. Okay, so there's those. Now, this is going to be a spare piece, so you can always use that to make another card. So we've got there, we're going to flip it to the right. Going to line up our corners on the cutting groove. Okay. And again, we have corners, so we haven't got a flat edge, so we're going to cut start the cut in the middle, and this is our spare. Now this is where it's critical. If you want this pattern, okay, you have to make sure that you cut that corner to that corner, all right? Because if you accidentally cut this corner to this corner, then you're automatically going to be going for the stripy side. I'm going to go for the floral side. So again, flip that to the right. Okay, line up, just hold it in place. And we're going to start in the middle again, and there. So this is this piece, and I could make a second one out of these pieces, which I might do. Might send it off to somebody. All right. So with any luck, that's all our cutting. Now this time we don't have to do any trimming. All right. All these pieces should, if my calculations pan out, should line up. So let's just go ahead and get that done. How are we doing for time? Can't see. Hopefully we're not dragging on too long. Right, so there we have. We're going to stick this piece here. And then stick this piece. So I'm just using here a let's see, it's a water-based adhesive. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's gone. Right, so let's ease that. Okay, so there's my piece. So this piece goes here like that, and then this piece will go here like that. So that's how you build up the fold, if you like, the fan fold, and because it looks just like a fan. So we need to have a little bit of something here. So we need some white card. Let's see what we've got. That's an envelope. Right. Is that big enough? Well, that'll work. So we just trim off that little decal edge. There we go. And then if this is what this is, this is, I recollect, is a 5.5. It is. We're going to make this 5 1/4. There we go. And we should be firing on all cylinders now. Now you could decorate that up. This is the bit there you're going to write your "To you, love from me." And there. Now comes the bit where we're going to arrange our fans. Right. Now we're going to make sure that the corner is down here, and we want to make sure that our right angle here doesn't go outside here and our point doesn't go outside there. Otherwise it won't fit in the envelope, or if it does, those bits get scooshed up. Now we're now going to stick this down, but to make sure that I've got a pencil. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you know me. I have never got a pencil. I've always got pens, but not a pencil. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get my pokey tool, and I'm just going to put a little line there. So that means I can only put adhesive here. I don't want to put it above that line, otherwise the card won't open. Okay, so let's make sure. Now with using the liquid, it does mean that we've got a bit of scoochy working time. So we've got to make sure that that doesn't go outside the card and that there. And if everything's gone to plan, we haven't got any adhesive here. So we've got that there. I know I'm a pain putting this in, but it's a devil's own job to clear those tubes out. Right, and so now we've got this piece, and I'm going to attach this piece with some dimensionals. And again, I don't want to put anything above here. I have got some of this, I don't know if you've ever used it, but it's like giant sticky pads. So there's the sort of the small ones. It's one big double-sided sticky pad. Those of you from my Stampin' Up days will know, like I talked about stamping dimensionals, but we can use this. I'm going to put this piece down here. This tiny piece, I'm hoping I'll be able to fit here. There we go. And then this piece can go right in the middle there. Like that. And then just remove the backing. Now, for the first time ever, I have a whole room to myself. I've always sort of shared a room, a study with my husband, having a corner, which was kind of how my name, Cindy's Corner, came, because I was always working in a corner. I've got a whole room to myself. And when we lived in Texas, I had like a wood floor, which was easy. If bits got on there, I could just sweep them up. Here, I've got carpet. So if I get bits on the floor, I actually have to get a carpet vacuum cleaner out. So I'm a bit more careful these days. So there we have our card. It's very pretty in those colours. So just to finish off, we can do a little decorative bit. So I'm going to use this little stamp set, which is one I found in a little store here in the UK. And this one says just a hello. So you could use this for anything. You could use it as a birthday, because you could say just a hello, and then inside you can write wishing you a very happy birthday. So I like those types of greeting. And we did have a bit of ink somewhere, which escapes me. I think I've covered it up with my recipe. It's under my nose. It'll bite me if I'm not careful. I did get I have a little piece of white card, which has also disappeared. So we're just going to stamp just a hello. Now, when I first used this stamp, I was bitterly disappointed, because the actual greeting was not clear. If you can see, I don't know if we've gone out of there. And then I realised when I looked at the rest of the set that it's actually a distressed stamp. It's deliberately not a perfect print. So to me, I thought, okay, we can work with that. Now then, let's see. Right, get rid of that bit. Just trim a little bit off of here. And another little bit off the other side. You can see I'm not measuring, I'm just taking it to close to where I think I want it to be. And I'm thinking about, I've got a scrap of this blue. Now, do you think that might, because that is there. So I'm thinking I'm gonna use this scrap of this little blue bit so I'm not wasting. And I've just put my finger in the glue. Never mind. So we're just gonna pop it up, give us a little border. And if I use, I don't know where my big scissors are. Right. See if we can get a nice border here. There we go. Not bad. Not bad at all. And so we can get ourselves some bit of this. See, it's easy to cut to whatever shape or size that you want. Oh, not bad. Not bad for a... Now, if you hear any sort of industrial noises in the background, they're still building houses on the new development that we are living in. In fact, we at the moment are the only people living in our cul-de-sac. There's what, I think about 10 other houses and we're the only ones living in the cul-de-sac. So we're all by ourselves, but we've got a lot of chaps who are building, and they're delightful. They're ever so considerate. It's a bit dusty around here, but hey, it's going to be a lovely subdivision when it's finished. Right, and now just a little bit of bling, and I've got these. I found these. I'm not sure if they'll go. No, I don't think I like them. I think they're going to get lost in there. But let's see what else I've got in my stash, limited as it is. So I've got some pearls, which might be pretty. Oh, these. Oh, I like these. We're going to have these because they've got gold in them, but they're kind of clear. Let's see. Alrighty. So our final little bit of embellishment there, and we're done. Right. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. So here's the 7.5, 7 by 5, and then there's the smaller version. So I really do hope that you've enjoyed this one. Let's get a little bit closer for you. If you have, perhaps you'll go ahead, give me a thumbs up. And I'd like to thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with me today. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, bye for now.